about kind of just what playing against England at TV, opening game Six Nations means to them. Like, it's such a big thing for everyone in Ireland growing up, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's definitely one of those games that always sticks out in your memory when you're a kid, when you're watching them. I think I've said before I was lucky enough to be at the one in Croke Park. That definitely sticks out in my memory the most. Lucky enough to be there for that one, and I think it's a great rivalry. I think most people love to beat England, and we're no different to most nations. And we have a particularly good rivalry, and I think it's probably why it sticks out more than most in the Six Nations.
Do you embrace that side of it in the build-up to games? Do you have to be completely performance focused, or do you allow yourself to kind of go, God, this is cool, this is something I always wanted to do?
Yeah, I suppose you kind of have to allow yourself to do that a little bit, but you can't get carried away with it either. You can go off into your own little world if you do that. You kind of have to come back to you know what we're trying to do in here, our performance. But you also want to let the occasion as well build up a little bit of emotion, so that you can bring that extra edge if you can. There's no harm in that either. So. But in terms of the performance base, that's obviously where all our focus lies. And but from an individual point of view, if you can leave that bit kind of leak in a little bit, where it gives you an edge, but not too much that you're over emotional about the whole occasion.
As an exercise, is playing Saracens and then at Northampton 2 weeks before you play against England pretty good way to go about it.
Yeah, I think so. We've obviously done a deep dive into some individuals there for both teams with Munster, so it certainly has its advantages going into this game. We're talking about the same individuals for England now. Obviously, two different types of systems, two different types of ways of playing. And as England have said, they're probably going to come out and play a little bit differently defensively. So, there's a lot of things to consider going into the Six Nations against them.
I spoke to Devin Hunter last week. He said England were, particularly when there's Cruz and Tadhg together. Obviously, Tadhg's still there, but they were the team he hated playing against the most in terms of line-out calling, in terms of anticipating what they were going to do, because they went after it so hard. Do you find them a tricky opposition to come up here?
Yeah, for sure. I think in general they are, and we were just watching their autumn international games. How often they change their defensive shape, particularly on five-mans, and whether they drop someone out of the line and bring someone in late defensively. So they're constantly changing pictures, which obviously makes coming up with a line-out menu a little bit more difficult, because you don't know what they're going to throw at you. So. Yeah, they're a tough team to play against in terms of set piece, for sure.
You were really honest a couple of weeks ago talking to us about the new law changes, particularly around the scrum half and stuff. Yeah. And it was great to get a player's perspective being honest like that as well. Over the last couple of weeks, have you got a better sense of on the pitch how this is all playing out? I saw you like Frank Murphy in today. Obviously, have you got a better sense or a better bit of clarity maybe over the last couple of weeks as to how this will look on the pitch? Yeah,
I suppose we have. There's still some grey areas for sure, and I think it's probably you have to probably be smart enough to not go after those grey areas, as tempting as they may be, in terms, especially around the ruck. Maybe once or twice I wasn't on the smart side over in Northampton, so. I still feel pretty strongly about what I said. I won't lie. I still think the nines are being looked after a bit much, but that's just my opinion. As I say, I think, as I said already, everyone's in the same boat, and everyone has to adapt to these laws as quick as possible. So it's up to us to do that and get our heads around it. And I'll keep asking the refs questions, whether it's Frank here today, or if it's a referee on the field. I'll be asking those questions, and hopefully I'll be on the right side of the way I'm thinking. Yeah.
On the line out side of those changes, though, like with the uncontested crooked throws, has that given you a few things to think about as to when and where you might actually contest lineouts, or where your opposition are more likely to contest?
I don't think we've spoken about it that much. I suppose I think we're a team that obviously always look to get after the ball as much as possible, get in the air. So it's not really something we've had to probably think about too much, because we try to get up in the air anyway. So we're not really changing much in terms of that law. But teams who probably don't go up in the air, particularly inside their own 22, they might start to feel it might be a best option to throw someone up in the air to put the hookers under a bit more pressure and the line out under pressure. But for us, I don't think much has changed for us there.
And then whether it's second row or back row, how does your role change for Ireland depending on where you're playing?
Line-out wise, well, during the autumns I still calling from 6, so it doesn't really change too much. General play, there's a bit of a difference there for sure. I probably find myself out in the wider channels a lot more as 6, and than I probably would in the second row. So that's probably the biggest difference, and probably same defensively. You probably end up a bit wider than you would in the second row. So just systemically, there's just a bit of a difference there where you end up on the field.
So I'll ask you some more about Maro. Obviously you played against him recently, but you've been playing against him a long time. How much has he changed, if at all, as a player, and how different is he as a captain?
I wouldn't know how he's different as a captain, to be honest. I think I don't play with him in terms of play for Saracens, so I don't know what he's like as a captain. But as a player, he's obviously he's a phenomenal player. He's shown that throughout his career, and he's someone who certainly lives on the edge. And sometimes he probably gets caught on that, but I think his influence in games is often very very positive, and I think he can be the reason a team ticks, and a reason they win games because of the influence he can have on the game. So he's that type of player, and being in that captain's role for England now, I'm sure it will elevate his performance even more, in terms of he'll probably feel a responsibility to perform at that high level all the time, and it often does bring out the best in players, and he'll probably be no different.
Where do you get your hands on the ball most? If you're playing in the back row or lock?
I would say probably second row, if I'm being honest. I think, but that's probably because I'm not used to playing 6. I think if you have a different...
You get it yourself in the second row, is that?
Pardon?
You go get it yourself?
Not that I go get it, I just find myself in a position to probably get my hands on the ball a little bit more, but if you've someone else playing 6, they might be a bit more clever in terms of how to get their hands on the ball and have more of an influence, but it's not a position that I've probably been playing long enough in our system to figure out that stuff. But it depends on the game as well. Sometimes I think back the year of the Lions 4 years ago, I was playing quite a bit of 6, and I got my hands on the ball quite a lot back then. It's just the way the games were flowing, and it's kind of hit and miss really. Sometimes you do get your hands on the ball playing 6, sometimes you don't.
So most players like getting hands on the ball, which is why I asked. I know you don't like the same preferences, but you prefer to get on the ball as much as possible, would you?
Yeah, you do and you don't, but you can influence a game without touching the ball an entire game, and some people may not see what you've done in that game, but I think when we sit in here as a squad and as a team and we're reviewing a game, there's a lot of the time it's the players without the ball who've made the biggest influence in terms of us scoring tries and that. So, and they're the players that are getting the pats on the back in here, not the players who are touching down for tries. So it's not really all about getting your hands on the ball. It's kind of being selfless as well. Putting team first and making sure you're doing those things off the ball to put your teammates in the best position to be scoring tries elsewhere.
Just finally, England are always a physical team. Is it just run of the mill now for guys like you that every match is going to be physical, or do England bring another edge to physicality?
I think international rugby in general is a physical team, is a physical game. You know, it just everything elevates. You know, you're playing the best players in those countries, and you know, they're representing their country, we're representing ours, and there's emotion there. There's obviously the eagerness to win, and the physical battle certainly rises. And you know, some teams just have naturally larger men, whether it's in the backs or the forwards, and they're able to bring a little bit more physical, be a bit more physical, I should say. But it shouldn't stop us matching that. You know, you can be physical in many ways, and you know, there's been some games over the last year or so that we haven't been there physically where we want to be, and you know, the New Zealand game particularly sticks out to us in November, and you know, they're the games that you end up losing if you don't match the physical battle or surpass it.
As much as being a big guy, is it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, massively so. You know, a big man can't run without legs. You know.
Do you think much about the possibility of winning 3 championships in a row?
Do you think much? Look, it hasn't been done before. Whenever we come in here at the start of a championship, what's the goal? It's to come in here and win a championship, but not only win a championship. Everyone wants to come in and win a Grand Slam, you know, and that's certainly the goal, and that's the ultimate goal. But you know, we've a big hurdle in front of us each week, and this week it's England, so it starts there, and you know, as each week goes by, it probably becomes more clear whether we've a possibility of doing that or not. But as I said, it kind of starts this Saturday.
You always hear about teams over there that they've got a target on their back. Did you notice that last year when you were playing the first?
I think of late, probably since we've kind of been hovering around that number 1 spot in the world, I think teams want to have a scalp off us more so than usual. It's probably how I'd feel. You know, it's probably, you know, if any team can beat when we were number 1, you know, if any team can beat number 1 team in the world, it's a pretty big feat. But for us, you know, we take each game as it comes. You know, we have a massive focus on ourselves, and you know, as nice as it is to be number 1, our focus is on kind of winning trophies and you know, winning games.
I remember you saying a couple of months ago that the All Blacks game in the World Cup had sort of lingered with you, like for a long time, sort of kept you up. Does Twickenham last year have a similar effect on you? Were you able to park that one a bit quicker, or was that a sort of one-off case because that was a World Cup? Because obviously last year Twickenham obviously ended the sort of back-to-back slam.
Yeah, look, Twickenham was incredibly disappointing, and you know, they took away the Grand Slam from us, but we kind of took it away from ourselves with how we played in that game. You talk about physicality, that's another game where, you know, we just weren't there, and yeah, that was disappointing. But I suppose when you do say the World Cup was particularly lingers with you because you don't know if you'll get another chance at it, and you know, you don't get to play for your country again for a good few months if you're lucky enough to play for your country again after a World Cup. Whereas with England, we were playing the following week, and we had a chance to right some wrongs, and thankfully we were able to do that. So yeah, it still sucks that we lost. Don't get me wrong, because I'd love to be sitting here saying that we'll go back-to-back Grand Slam winner, but we did have an opportunity to, you know, to make ourselves feel better by winning the championship.